This is my favourite. In fact, I think it's my favourite ever card, ever. That's a big statement, but I love this. So you've got this little card that has this spine at the side, and we've done it with the gnomes that are on the USB, so you don't need to buy your stamps. We've given you all these as drawing files, and you get all your flowers and your grass and your clouds and everything. And I'll show you on air how I made the clouds in the background, the inky bit, because that's super simple too. But look what happens when you open this up. He moves towards her to give her a bouquet of flowers. How gorgeous is that? And I'm sorry, I'm not looking at you. I'm looking at the screen because I want... Are we ready? Gonna get really in, really close. Ready? Look. Look, he moves towards her to give her her flowers. Oh, that just makes me go funny. I love it. Right, so how do we make this work? Because I know it looks really it feels like it's going to be really complicated, but it's really not. Look at this. I love that. So I literally sat there doing this for about 10 minutes because it was just the cutest thing ever. Right, so the mechanics, this is what you need to know about this. So you have a card base and you have two doors. One that goes on the left, one that goes on the right. So you're going to fold along those perforation lines, and they're both going to be mounting folds. All right, so you're creating that spine, and then your tab is going to glue to the back of the base. So we're going to do this bit now, and then I can talk to you about the actual mechanism itself, because we tried loads of different ways, and this was the easiest way to do it. I need to stop losing my lids for my glue. Right, so glue on here. Okay. So one on one side, like that. And one on the other side, so the tab is going on the back. And again with the gnomes, I drew them onto the watercolour card. So the way that you draw on watercolour card with scan and cut is you make sure that you've got a really nice sticky mat, and you put your watercolour card on, and I used that same Sharpie fine liner, black Sharpie fine liner. It's the ultra fine tip that you need, because that one fits in your universal pen holder. And I let it draw it onto there because, of course, if you're using a water-based medium, you need a solvent-based ink, and that's exactly what a Sharpie is. Right, so, or if you're going to do them with your alcohol pens, you would draw them with something like the Ink Lily fine liner, which is water-based. So I now have my card that has a spine on either side. Now I would absolutely recommend using acetate. Okay, I know it's something else that you have to buy, but it works better. Okay, that's all there is to it. It's stronger. It doesn't, there's going to be a lot of people opening and pulling this out. You don't want the card to split on the perforation lines. Okay, so you're going to take one, you're going to have the one on the left hand side, so that the little tabs that you're going to glue onto your card are on the left, and then your other one has the little pieces on the right. So the two almost like sideways, C's, that's a letter C that way, and then a letter C back to front. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is get you to fold those backwards. Okay, so your tabs on both of them are going to go backwards, and the same on this way, they're going to go backwards like that. And then we're going to turn them over and we're going to put red liner tape on them, because you need something that's really strong. And acetate is just much better than card for this, because it's going to get a lot of people picking it up on the mantelpiece and messing about with it, and you don't want it to come to bits. And I think if you make and sell cards like this, can you imagine how happy your customers are going to be. And yes, it takes a little bit of doing, but don't forget, so this is the thing that we talked about when we brought you Ink Lily, wasn't it? If you colour in these images once, you can then photocopy them. So every time you come to make a card, you don't need to keep colouring in. Just have a day or a couple of days where you just sit there and do some colouring, photocopy it, and then use those. And if you're drawing in either brown or black onto a light cardstock or even onto a coloured cardstock, you then just scan it back in. So draw it, scan it back in to direct cut, and let the scan and cut them out for you. So the time that you're saving lining up cutting files or cutting them out with scissors, you can spend just spending a bit of time colouring in. And because these are quite childlike images, it doesn't matter if you're not the best colourist. You just colour them in single colours. You don't even need to blend anything. But I did these with watercolour pencils. I've done some with my Ink Lily pens. It's up to you, whatever you feel more comfortable with. So at this point, I've got the one on the right with my C shape on the left and the one on the left with the C shape on the right. So I'm going to thread those together so they interlock like that. Okay, just do that for you again. So the one on the right, the bottom leg of the one on the right goes through the middle of the one on the left, and you pull it like that. Okay, so it interlocks like that. Let me get a piece of white, something white behind there, and then you might be able to see it a little bit better. No, that's even worse. I'll lay it down on here. Can you see that bit there? Let me do it one more time. So you've got the one with the tabs on the right here and the one with the tabs on the left at the bottom. The bottom leg there, this bottom piece here, goes through the middle and then pulls over. So you end up with that interlocking section. There you go. Okay. So we then need to line these up because these tabs are going to stick onto the spine on the inside here. So you know where we folded those two perforation lines? These are actually going to stick on that spine, which then gives it the depth to pull away, okay? So I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to take my red liner tape backing off here. And there is a frame that goes around this. So you're going to cut the frame out as well, okay? Because then you're going to make sure that this doesn't come above the aperture in the frame. But on this one here that I've done, so I'll just bring this in, I've just covered over it with some grass anyway, so it really doesn't matter. You're not going to see it. So I'm going to pop this one here, and I'm lining the perforation line up on the tab on the acetate with the first perforation line of the spine here, so from the outside in. So when it then folds up, you get that depth underneath here, like that, you see? So you must make sure that when you fold this in, your tabs are facing down. Right, then with that in place, I'm going to take the backing off these. And it is, you've got to just take your time with it because it wants to move, because there's nothing holding it in place at this moment in time. So it wants to wiggle around a bit. Let me just see, now my tabs have come the wrong way around. So if I take that out, I need to make sure that when I put this through, bend that like that. I need to make sure that when I put it through like that, my tape is still on the underneath, okay? So that then I can lie that flat, push that and align that. So you've got 4 rows of acetate. So from your left-hand side piece, you've got your first one. From the right, you've got your second. From the left, you've got your third. And from the right, you've got your fourth. Okay, and then when you're happy with that, you're just going to pull this over, make it, this is the tricky bit. Now I came up with a good idea and I've forgotten to do that now. So what I did was I took a piece of low-tack tape, the tape that you use for your Told You Dies in place. I took a piece of this. Oh, Melanie, do you know, I hate tape. There's got to be a better solution to this. So a little bit of repositionable tape. Holds that in place like that. So it holds the 4 pieces together. So you can then slide your tabs underneath and line the perforation line on the tab with the perforation line on the spine on the right hand side. And that keeps all that stable. I knew there was something else I needed to tell you. And then you can just take that off and that's in place. Then you have 2 strips, 2 acetate strips like this, okay? And one of those is going to glue on this part here, and the other one is going to glue on this part. So the left hand or the left hand side of the C, where it goes down there, and then where it goes down there, okay? But you have to line them both up to the bottom. So what we're going to do is put tape just on these pieces here. So just that closed section there, like that, and then this closed section down here. So there will be slightly, the one on this one that I'm doing now will be slightly lower than the one that I did before, okay? So that's our tape in place. And now when we take the tape off the one on the left hand side, there has to be an easier solution to this. I don't mean this card, I mean this blinking tape malarkey. You're going to take this and the bottom edge, you're going to line up with the bottom of your interlocking section, not the bottom of the piece that's got the tape on. So it needs to come right down to the bottom. Okay, and I'm going to move it slightly further over to the left. And then I'm going to take this tape off here. Like that. And then I'm going to try and find my other piece of acetate that was on here. Where's that gone? Oh, do you know what? This happens to me all the time. Just had that. Where's that gone? There it is. That's the problem with acetate. You can't see it, can you? And then this one is going to line up. And I'm going to move this further over to the right. Okay? So everything now is level. And then it goes up and then it goes across. So that when you then refold in put your spines back in like this. And bend this spine back in like that. When you open this up, those two pull together. So when you close it, as if I open this really slowly, you can see how those two strips move together. It's not massive, but it's enough that when you put your characters on, they move and it looks like he's giving her the bouquet of flowers. And as soon as I saw this mechanism, I was like, right, I've got to do this with the gnomes. And we just happened to have, we made sure we had a sideways facing gnome and the gnome of the young lady, and it happened to be that he was carrying the flowers, so I'm really glad it worked out like that. So then you can see now it's not going to come right out like that because you're going to have a frame that then goes over the top. So if I bring this back in, the frame will stop it coming forward like that, okay? So it will keep these bits flat because there'll be a frame that goes over the top. So if I bring this one back in, what I've done then is put adhesive. In fact, let me cut you the frame and then I can show you because it's easier. and I missed that bit out, so I'm going to cut the frame. So if we go into here, I've got a mat somewhere under here. I've just told the team off because look at that. They've just been told off for not looking after the scan and cut mats. Because we know how precious they are, don't we? Right, so let's go home and let's go to retrieve data, USB, Kinetic cards. Ignore the format of this. Yours won't look like this. Yours will be like this. SVG files, into the cards and into the interlocking slider card. And you will have a frame somewhere, window piece. That's probably what Josh has called it. Window, no, not that bit. Window piece. There we go. All right, so I might have resized this actually, but let's give it a go and see. Because I can't remember. It's a while since I did them. I've done a lot since then. So let's cut this and then we can make sure we know where to put our foam tape, etc. So fortunately, the curvy bit on this is on this end, but I wouldn't risk scanning this mat in because it'll get caught. So please try and keep your mats straight. They just got the look like that. So I'm going to press OK, please select and cut and start, and then it will cut that frame out. And this is the joy of having a scan and cut, just does all the hard work for you. No measuring, no lining bits up, no using a ruler and a craft knife. It just does what you want it to do when you want it to do it, which is fabulous. And it doesn't matter which model you've got, whether you've got the absolute original or whether you've got this, everything will work in exactly the same way. Right, so I'm not even going to worry about that. I'm just going to unload that mat for now. So now we have our frame. Now, if I open this back out, we obviously don't want to have any foam near that mechanism. So we can put it along the bottom here. So think about when you're putting your pieces in, think about how wide your foam tape is. So we can have it along here. So I'm going to use quite a narrow tape for this, and I need to make sure I've got enough of one. That'll probably do. So I'll put this along, right along the bottom, like right along the bottom, not with a couple of mil showing at the bottom, right along that bottom edge, like that. And then I'll just snip that off with my scissors. And then I would put it along the top. So I'm going to turn that around so I can actually see that edge. So I can make sure that I get it right. Along there like that. And then I would just do, you don't want any along here at all, but you can come down to, let me just check that. Yeah, you can come down the side pieces like this, okay? But just to the bottom of that aperture that's in it. Don't come any lower down. And then the same on the other side here, okay? And then tweezers, where are you? There you go. Now you know why I use wet glue, but I can't use wet glue because I'm using 3D foam. Honestly, drives me bonkers. Right, come on, little monkey. It's not coming off at all, that. I think this has been in. I think this has been left in a warm room for a long time. You can tell by the way the backing doesn't want to release. Look. Never mind. You'll get the idea. Oh, you know what? I'm not even going to persist with that anymore because it's driving me bonkers. So then you're going to stick this inside here. So right to the bottom. like that, up the sides, across the top, and down the other side. And then when you do that, can you see how they still move, but it doesn't pop forward? So it pushes those strips back and then it brings them together, look. I think that's fabulous. And then when you come to put your characters on, just line them up so that when your card is fully open, they are meeting, because then when you close the card, they separate, and then they open and they meet. They separate and then they open and they meet. Isn't that fabulous? And I have to just bring this back in and show you again, because I love this. So you've got all these, everything that's on here is on that USB as a drawing file. Some of them are on there as cutting files. So you've got all your grass, everything, all your flowers, your mushroom house, all the rest of it. The only thing that isn't on there is your cloud stencil, but I'll show you how I made that with the clouds that are on there. And then when you open that up, look, he moves over and gives her her bouquet of flowers. Now, my mum and dad would have thought that that was brilliant, as would my grandma and granddad. Oh, look at that. And my granddaughter would appreciate it, and my husband would appreciate it, and I'm sure yours will too. But how cool is that? Isn't that the cutest thing ever? So have fun making one of those. I'm going to tidy up and then we'll do the next one.